Ladies, listen to me closely. If you don't master the art of mystery, you will never master the art of power. You've been taught to be open, honest, transparent, to tell a man everything, to show him your heart, to expose your soul. Stop, right there, because I'm about to tell you something no one has ever dared to say. A woman must always hide 5 things from a man. Always. And if you don't, he'll lose attraction, he'll lose respect, and worst of all, he'll lose the desire to chase you. Never let a man know exactly what buttons to push. You think being emotionally open will bring you closer? Wrong? That just gives him a playbook to control you. The second you say, "This makes me insecure," guess what he remembers? Exactly how to weaken you. Powerful women never hand out the blueprint to their breakdown. You show composure. You show strength. And when you're hurt, you heal in silence and level up. Do not tell a man what you're planning next. "I'm thinking of starting a business. I might move to a new city. I'm going to change my life." Shh. Your next move? It's on a need-to-know basis. And guess what? He doesn't need to know. Why? Because the more predictable you are, the less value he places on you. Mystery is power. Let your glow-up speak before your mouth ever does. You tell a man, "I'm really starting to fall for you after 3 dates." You just killed the chase. You're giving commitment before he even earned your attention. Let him wonder. Let him work. Let him feel uncertain. That's where the obsession is born, not in comfort, but in curiosity. You don't have to lie, but you do have to protect your emotions like they're gold. Because they are. Stop bleeding all over people who didn't cut you. Yes, you've been through hell. Yes, you've been betrayed. Yes, men in the past have failed you, but when you walk into a new relationship with open wounds, you don't look brave, you look broken. And broken energy doesn't attract a protector, it attracts a predator. Heal, then speak. Not the other way around. You want to cook for him, clean for him. Support his dreams. Love him like no woman ever has? Don't. D-O-I-T. Yet. You show all your cards too early, and he stops playing the game. A man must earn the woman who gives her all, not expect it by default. You are not his therapist, not his mother, not his savior. You are the prize, and a prize never begs to be picked. It's displayed, admired, and won. Now let me say this loud and clear. You don't owe any man full access to your mind, your heart, your pain, your plans, or your energy. You owe that to yourself first. Let him earn the layers. Let him work to understand you. Let him chase the mystery, because that is what keeps his desire alive. The women who are fully exposed get used. The women who hold power get respected. You don't have to be cold. You have to be controlled. So from this day forward, remember, your silence is power. Your mystery is magnetic. And your boundaries, they are your crown. Never take it off for a man. You want to know the fastest way to kill attraction? Be predictable. Be an open book. Be emotionally naked on day 1. You want him to lose interest. Show him everything, your past, your pain, your plans, your insecurities. You think that's vulnerability. He sees it as weakness. He doesn't want full access. He wants to earn access. That's the game, and you're giving away the prize before he's even played. Men aren't wired to worship what's obvious. They obsess over what they can't quite understand, what they have to figure out, what they can't completely grasp. Mystery is power. Mystery is the drug. The reason he checks his phone at 2 a.m. hoping for a message. The reason he replays your last words over and over in his head. The reason he feels like you're in his system and he can't shake you. You think telling him everything will make him stay. You think if he just knew how good your heart is, how much you care, how deep your love goes, he'll never leave. You're wrong. That's what makes him comfortable. That's what makes him take you for granted. Because the second he knows everything, he stops trying. The game is over, and men don't stay in games that don't challenge them. The second he feels like he's got you figured out, you become invisible. The texts get shorter. The energy gets colder. The good mornings turn into silence. And you sit there wondering, what did I do wrong? You were too available, too obvious, too exposed. You let him download your entire emotional code without him doing a damn thing to deserve it. Mystery makes a man invest. The unknown makes him curious. And curiosity creates emotional attachment. When you don't explain yourself, he starts guessing. When you don't respond instantly, he starts wondering. When you don't show all your feelings, he starts chasing. You think you're playing games? No, you're playing chess. And queens don't play checkers with pawns. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to overshare. You don't need to beg to be seen. A woman in control of her presence doesn't need to perform. Her silence screams. Her absence echoes. Her mystery hypnotizes. You ever notice how the women who do the most get the least? They're always available, always talking. always proving their worth. And the man, he's bored. He's detached. He's moving on to the next shiny thing. Meanwhile, the woman who keeps her cards close, the one he can't quite read, she's living rent-free in his mind. Why? Because men don't crave what's handed to them. They crave what they're afraid to lose. And you can't lose something you fully own. You must become a question mark in his head, not an open book he's already read. Your presence should spark curiosity. Your words should make him think twice. Your actions should leave him unsure, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're deeply rooted in self-worth. You're not rushing to impress him. You're watching to see if he's even worth your truth. You see, mystery isn't manipulation. It's discipline. It's self-respect. It's knowing your value and refusing to put it on display for free. You don't audition for a man's attention. You let him earn it. You don't hand over your softness to someone who hasn't shown you safety. You don't open your soul to someone who hasn't proven depth, and it starts with silence. Not silence as a weapon, but silence as a boundary. You don't need to explain why you're not available. You don't need to announce your every move. You don't need to justify your standards. A man who is serious will lean in. A man who is not will walk away. And either way you win. Because you're not here to be chosen. You're here to observe who is qualified to stay. You become magnetic when you stop chasing and start observing, when you stop revealing and start evaluating, when you stop proving and start protecting. He should feel like there's more to know. Like he's only scratched the surface. Like every time he sees you, there's a new layer to uncover. That's how emotional addiction is created. Not through access, through scarcity. You keep thinking if you show him how amazing you are, he'll value you. But the truth is, if he sees all of you too fast, he'll devalue you. Not because you're not amazing, but because mystery creates imagination. And imagination is more powerful than reality. The most unforgettable women are the ones a man never fully understands. The ones who leave him questioning, wanting, guessing. You don't need to act mysterious. You need to be mysterious. And that comes from having a life that doesn't revolve around him. Goals that don't include him. Confidence that doesn't need his validation. You are not here to be a mirror. You are here to be a flame. And flames don't chase people. They burn steady, and the world comes to them. When you own your silence, he starts talking more. When you own your presence, he leans in. When you own your space, he tries to enter it. Not because you begged. Not because you over-explained. But because you gave him the gift of mystery, and that's the only gift he can't stop chasing. You've been told to be authentic. Be real, be honest. But no one told you that boundaries are part of authenticity too. Protecting your energy is honesty. Holding back your story is wisdom. Not everyone deserves your full truth. Especially not a man who hasn't shown you depth, consistency, effort. Mystery isn't lying. It's knowing that your value increases the less accessible you are. A woman who speaks with purpose, moves with intention, responds with control, and lives without announcing, that's the woman men chase for life. Because she's not just beautiful, she's unpredictable, she's not just kind, she's unavailable to the weak. She's not just strong, she's selective. And that is where your power lies. In the space between what he sees and what he wants to see. In the tension of not knowing. In the pull of uncertainty. In the power of your mystery. The fastest way to give a man control over you is to tell him exactly how to break you. The moment you say, this scares me, this makes me insecure, this hurts me, you're not being vulnerable, you're handing over the keys to your self-destruction. You're giving him the blueprint to your collapse. And the truth is, not every man deserves to know where you bleed. You want to connect. You want to build trust. That doesn't come from pouring out your emotional wounds to someone who hasn't earned your scars. That comes from boundaries, from watching how a man handles the pieces of you that you don't show him. If he hasn't shown you protection, consistency, and emotional depth, why the hell are you showing him your most fragile parts? Women think vulnerability creates closeness. It doesn't, not when it's given recklessly. Not when it's served on a silver platter before there's even a damn table set. Vulnerability is sacred. It's not a tool for connection. It's a test of worth. And too many of you are failing that test by bleeding in front of someone who just came to watch. There are men who will study your softness, not to protect it, but to manipulate it. The more they know what shakes you, the more power they have to control you. The more they understand what triggers you, the more they can play you like a puppet. And you'll sit there wondering why you're always second-guessing yourself, why you're constantly walking on eggshells, why you feel powerless in your own relationship, and it's because you handed over your weapons to the wrong damn man. You told him your deepest insecurities before he even showed you his intentions. You cried to him before he even proved he could hold space. You exposed your heart, your past, your fears, your childhood trauma to a man who never even asked how you heal. And now you're shocked that he's using it against you? That's not betrayal. That's consequence. Powerful women protect their emotional triggers like secrets because that's what they are. They are sacred codes, and a man must prove he's a safe, grounded, mature protector before you ever give him that level of access. Your wounds are not for public display. Your scars are not for storytelling. They are proof that you've survived. And survivors don't hand their survival guide to just anyone. You want to know why he doesn't respect you? It's not because you're emotional, it's because you gave him emotional control. You let him see you unravel too fast. You made him the container for your chaos. You turned him into your therapist, your comforter, your emotional punching bag, and then you wonder why he pulled away. He didn't sign up to be your foundation. And now that he's cracked it, you feel broken all over again. You are not weak for having wounds, but you are unwise for handing them to someone who hasn't proven themselves. You can be open and still be discerning. You can be real without being raw with the wrong person. And if you haven't figured out the difference yet, that's why you keep getting played. That's why you keep getting broken, because you keep calling premature exposure love. The most dangerous thing a woman can do is seek validation through vulnerability, because now your emotions are no longer yours. They're in his hands, and the wrong man will use them to shape your identity, to make you question your sanity, to manipulate your decisions. You don't need to spill your soul to feel seen. You need to be able to sit in your silence and feel powerful. He doesn't need to know what your ex did. He doesn't need to know how your father made you feel. He doesn't need to know how deeply insecure you are when you look in the mirror. Not in the beginning. Not when you're still figuring out if he's emotionally intelligent or just temporarily interested. You are not here to trauma bond. You are here to soul build. A man who values you will earn your truth one layer at a time. A man who just wants access will rush you into emotional exposure because he knows the more you share, the more control he gains. And you'll confuse that with connection, but it's not connection. It's dependency. It's giving someone power over your peace and calling it intimacy. It's not intimacy. It's emotional entrapment. When you tell a man too much too soon, you rob him of the opportunity to discover you, to explore you, to earn your depth. And when there's nothing left to uncover, he stops being curious. And when he's not curious, he stops chasing. And when he stops chasing, you feel abandoned. But it wasn't abandonment. It was exposure. You gave him everything, and he realized he didn't have to give anything to keep you. The women who are unforgettable are the ones who protect their peace, the ones who sit with their emotions until they're strong enough to speak from power, not pain, the ones who cry in silence and rise with clarity, the ones who aren't afraid to feel, but they're smart enough to wait, smart enough to hold it, smart enough to understand that pain is sacred, and sacred things are hidden, not thrown at the feet of temporary men. You don't have to be emotionless to be respected, but you do have to be emotionally intelligent. And emotional intelligence means knowing when to speak, how to speak, WHO to speak to. You don't get applause for being raw with someone who's not ready for your truth. You get devastation, you get regret, you get betrayal disguised as you want to know why he stopped trying because you started giving before he started earning. You gave him consistency before he gave you clarity. You gave him loyalty before he gave you commitment. You gave him wife energy while he was still acting like a stranger. You handed him a crown when he hadn't even proven he was a man worth kneeling for. And now you're confused why he disappeared. That's not confusion. That's the consequence of overgiving to someone who did the bare minimum to be in your life. Every time you overextend, you teach him that your love is cheap. Every time you overgive, you teach him that effort isn't required. And when no effort is required, you become disposable. Because anything that comes too easy gets taken for granted. You want to be valued. Stop giving him benefits he hasn't paid for. You want to be respected. Stop treating him like a king before he's even earned a conversation about being your man. Stop auditioning for a role he hasn't even offered you. You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to observe who's worthy of you. But you've been taught that if you just love harder, care more, give more, he'll finally see you. No, he won't. He'll get comfortable. He'll sit back. He'll keep receiving. And the more he receives without working for it, the more he expects. Until one day you're drained, he's detached, and you're begging for breadcrumbs from a man who never even brought bread to the table. Men don't fall in love with the women who give them everything. They fall for the women who make them work, who make them grow, who make them show up. A man's nature is to pursue. It's to conquer. It's to earn. And when you remove that process, you remove the purpose. He needs the journey. He needs the climb. And if he doesn't have to climb for you, he'll find another mountain. You're giving your body to someone who hasn't given you emotional safety. You're giving your time to someone who hasn't given you effort. You're giving your love to someone who hasn't even asked what your needs are. And now you're exhausted, confused, heartbroken. Not because love is hard, but because you gave yours away like it meant nothing. You served your heart on a platter to someone who brought nothing to the table but charm and attention. And that's why you're bleeding. A high-value woman gives with intention. She gives based on observation, not fantasy. She doesn't pour her soul into potential. She doesn't fall in love with the idea of him. She watches, she waits, she evaluates because her energy is sacred, her presence is rare. Her love is not a donation, it's a reward. And only a man who shows up with action, consistency, and depth gets access to that reward. The moment you start pouring into someone who isn't pouring into you, the relationship becomes imbalanced. And imbalance always breeds resentment. You start feeling unseen. You start feeling unappreciated. You start shrinking yourself to keep his interest. You start tolerating half-love just to avoid being alone. And what you don't realize is you're already alone. You've just replaced your loneliness with labor. And labor isn't love. A man will never value what he didn't earn. That's why you have to let him lead. Let him show up. Let him invest. Let him prove. And until he does, you don't give. You don't nurture. You don't support. You don't bend over backward trying to impress him. You sit back. You stay grounded. You protect your peace. Because the right man will never be scared to earn you still. You don't win him over with generosity. You don't secure him with loyalty. You don't keep him with sex, service, or submission. If you have to give everything to keep him, then he was never meant to stay. Real men don't fall in love with performance. They fall in love with power. The power of a woman who doesn't need them but chooses them. The power of a woman who knows her value and moves with standards. The power of a woman who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't explain, she simply removes herself when the energy isn't matched. If you have to convince him, you've already lost. If you have to teach him how to love you, you're parenting, not partnering. If you have to break yourself just to hold on to him, you're not in love, you're in survival mode. And survival mode is not sexy, it's not feminine, it's not powerful, it's a prison. A prison you walked into because you thought overgiving would earn you forever. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to beg anyone to choose you. You don't have to keep trying to fix a man who's never tried to build anything with you. Sit back and let his effort show you everything. Let his behavior tell the story. Let his consistency be the proof. Because anyone can say they want you, but who shows it? Who acts like it? Who puts in the time, the energy, the effort, the sacrifice? Until he does that, stop cooking, stop texting first, stop bending your schedule, stop prioritizing him like he's a priority. Stop acting like he's your man when he hasn't made you his woman. Stop offering peace to someone who hasn't even brought stability. Stop showing up like a team player when he's still acting like a free agent. You are not cold for protecting your energy. You are not mean for having standards. You are not bitter for saying no. You are smart. You are strong. You are sacred. And sacred things are not handed out. Sacred things are revealed slowly over time to those who are loyal, intentional, and consistent. Let him earn your softness. Let him earn your vulnerability. Let him earn your time. And if he never does, don't cry, don't chase, don't question, just walk. Because a woman who walks away from anything less than she deserves is the most powerful woman in the world. The moment you tell a man your next move, you give him the power to control it. You hand him the steering wheel and hope he doesn't crash the car. You let him into your strategy, into your mindset, into your future, and now he knows how to block it, delay it, or manipulate it. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power. And the woman who learns to move in silence becomes untouchable, unpredictable, unstoppable. She becomes a storm he never saw coming. You think sharing your plans builds intimacy. You think telling him where you're headed creates connection. You think mapping out your next chapter with him means alignment. But the truth is, most men don't deserve access to your vision, not because you're hiding, but because they haven't proven they're walking in the same direction. You keep laying out the blueprint of your life to someone who hasn't even built a stable foundation of effort. You keep handing him your goals, hoping he'll support them, hoping he'll clap for you, hoping he'll align, but all you're doing is giving him a sneak preview of what he'll never earn. A high-value woman doesn't announce her next level. She arrives in it. She doesn't talk about what she's about to do. She just does it. She doesn't forecast her evolution. She becomes the storm. And that silence. That mystery, that unpredictability, that's what drives men crazy, because they can't read her. They can't anticipate her. They can't figure her out. And men don't get addicted to the women they can control. They get addicted to the ones they can't predict. You tell him, I'm done, and then you wait to see if he'll stop you. You say, I'm moving on, and then you watch his reaction like it validates your worth. You tell him, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore, but you're still giving him access. Still answering. Still reacting. That's not power. That's performance. Real power is when he has no idea what you're doing next. When he sends a message and gets silence. When he plays games and gets confusion. When he pulls back and you disappear. No explanation. No breakdown. Just absence. That's when he panics, because now he's no longer in control of your emotions. Now he's left in the dark. And the dark is where clarity hits the hardest. Stop updating him on your growth. Stop telling him how you're healing. Stop letting him know what you're doing to move on, to level up, to glow up. He doesn't need a front row seat to your transformation, especially if he was part of the pain that caused it. Your evolution is not for his consumption. It's for your legacy. It's for your peace. And the more you share, the more you delay, because you keep waiting for his validation before you act. You keep announcing change instead of embodying it. And the women who embody change, they don't need to say a word. The world watches them. And so does he. You don't owe anyone a warning before you shift, before you disappear, before you break the cycle. You don't have to explain why you're choosing yourself this time. You don't have to prepare him for the silence. Let him wonder. Let him question. Let him feel the consequences of taking you for granted. You've spent enough time narrating your worth to someone who is never listening. He doesn't need to know where you're going, who you're seeing, what you're planning. That's how you keep your peace. That's how you protect your energy. Because every time you tell him your next move, he recalibrates. He adjusts. He shifts just enough to keep you stuck. He shows up just enough to keep you hoping. And now you're caught in the loop again, sharing your goals with someone who's secretly afraid you'll outgrow him. And guess what? You will. That's why he wants the intel. That's why he wants the updates. Not to support you, but to control the pace of your progress. A smart woman never lets a man see her next step. She never explains her shift. She never warns before she walks, because her power isn't in her words. Her power is in her absence, in her glow that he can no longer reach, in her movement that no longer centers around his opinion, in her execution that happens in silence and erupts in results. When you talk too much, you kill your momentum. You dilute your magic. You sabotage your power, because now he knows what to expect. He knows how to play you. He knows what strings to pull, what buttons to press, what sweet words to throw at you to keep you paused. And you think that's love. That's not love. That's strategy. That's control disguised as concern. You want to make him sweat, move in silence. You want to make him regret it, disappear without a show. No text, no closure, no warning, just silence that echoes louder than any goodbye ever could. That's when it hits. That's when the weight of losing you becomes unbearable, because men don't regret losing women who announce every feeling. They regret the women who say nothing and never return. Don't tell him when you're done. Be done. Don't tell him you're elevating. Elevate. Don't tell him you're healing. Heal. Don't give him a front row seat to your rebirth. Let him hear about it through whispers, through rumors, through the shock of seeing you shine without him. That's the kind of silence that humbles. That's the kind of silence that haunts. You've been too loud with your plans, too predictable with your emotions, too available with your updates, and it's cost you. It's kept you stagnant. It's kept you explaining. It's kept you in conversations that drained your energy and fed his ego. It's time to cut the cord. Not with words, with action. Not with declarations, with distance.